One shocking moment changed American politics forever. Charlie Kirk, one of the most controversial figures of his generation, was only 31 when his life was cut short in front of a stunned crowd. For some, he was a hero. For others, he was the face of division in America. But no matter what you thought of him, his death left a gaping hole in the political landscape and raised disturbing questions about what really happened that day. This isn't just about one man. This is about power, enemies, influence, and a political climate spiraling out of control. It happened in Utah, September, clear skies, a massive outdoor crowd at Utah Valley University. This was supposed to be the first stop on Kirk's American comeback tour. Billed as a fiery return after a summer of media appearances, the tour promised to showcase Kirk at his peak. Confrontational, bold, and unafraid of criticism. But in a single second, it all came crashing down. He was mid-sentence, responding to a question about gun violence, a bitter irony that hasn't gone unnoticed when a sharp crack tore through the air. Eyewitnesses said the crowd froze, unsure if it was fireworks, before the screams began. Kirk collapsed, clutching his neck. Security rushed him, dragging him down as people stampeded in panic. One student later said, "I thought I was going to die being crushed, not even shot." Blood spilled across the stage. The man who once prided himself on controlling the room was now lifeless in front of thousands. And the shooter? Gone. No arrest, no name, no closure. To this day, the mystery fuels endless speculation. Was a lone actor? A politically motivated attack? Something deeper? To understand why Charlie Kirk became a target, you need to understand how polarizing he was. He wasn't just another conservative talking head. He was young, brash, and deeply connected. By his late 20s, he had become one of the most recognizable voices of the right. For his supporters, he was a genius strategist, someone who could own the libs and energize students like no one else. But to his critics, he was dangerous, a megaphone for division, a man who thrived on culture, wars, deliberately provoking outrage. His visit to Utah Valley was controversial from the moment it was announced. A petition demanding the school cancel the event went viral, gathering thousands of signatures. Protesters promised to show up. Kirk thrived on that chaos. He loved walking into hostile territory and turning it into a debate. Stage. Every viral clip of him clashing with students was another notch in his brand. But that style made him enemies, not just on campus, but nationally. And in a climate already boiling with tension, enemies can be deadly. Kirk's path was nothing short of meteoric. Born in suburban Illinois, he wasn't born into political royalty. He wasn't from D.C. or even a college graduate, but he had one skill that set him apart, knowing how to build a movement. At just 18, he founded Turning Point USA. What started as a scrappy project quickly exploded into a national powerhouse with tens of millions in funding. By 25, Kirk was rubbing shoulders with senators, governors, and the Trump family. Unlike other conservative figures who spent decades climbing the ladder, Kirk skipped ahead. He was a youth whisperer for the GOP. When older Republicans couldn't connect with college kids, Kirk could. Trump loved him. He brought him into the inner circle, invited him to private events, even reportedly listened to his advice on who should run for vice president. Kirk himself is believed to have pushed hard for J.D. Vance, reshaping the 2024 race. He was more than a commentator. He was an insider. And insiders with influence attract attention, both good and bad. Here's where the tragedy becomes even darker. There were warnings. Security experts have been sounding the alarm for years. Kirk's events were magnets for protests. At campuses across the country, things had gotten tense, sometimes violent. Yet, many of his events remained open air with little screening. Former NYPD chief of about internal betrayal, suggesting Kirk's growing influence inside Trump's circle may have made him a threat to rivals. Even wilder theories began circulating that the shooting wasn't random at all, but carefully orchestrated to silence him at the peak of his power. No suspect has been caught, no motive confirmed, and in that silence, theories multiply. Was Kirk targeted because of what he represented, or because of who he knew? The official response was swift. Trump mourned him online within minutes, calling him loved and admired by all. The House of Representatives held a moment of silence. Even Democrats who despised his politics condemned the violence. But the condolences didn't erase the deeper questions. Why wasn't security tighter? Who let an armed man or woman into the event? And why? Months later, do we still know nothing about the shooter? The silence is deafening. And as the investigation drags on, the legacy of Charlie Kirk becomes less about his words and more about the shadow his death casts over the future of political discourse. Charlie Kirk's tragedy wasn't just the loss of one man. It was a reminder of how dangerous America's political divide has become. He lived as a fighter. He died in controversy. And whether you agreed with him or not, his story forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Political violence is here, it's rising, and it could strike anyone.